And I'll start with my team who's actually here and they're brand new, so please welcome them. First, I'll go with Victoria.
Hi everyone, I'm Victoria Salgado. I am the program coordinator for the IHCI program at MHA Greater Houston. It is nice to be here with you all today.
Thank you, Victoria. I'll go to Alina next.
Hi everyone, my name is Alina Jacob and I'm the other program specialist with the IHCI team, and I'm really excited to be here with you all.
Thanks, Alina. Christy, I'm going to save you for last, okay? Sarah, you're next on my screen.
I am Sarah Bogart and I'm with Harris County Public Health. Hi, Carmen. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Thanks, Sarah. William, you're next.
Hello, my name is William Lyons. I work at Legacy Community Health.
Thank you so much for joining today. Seema, you're next.
Hi, I'm Seema Shah. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist with the Meadows Mental Health Policy Institute.
Thank you for joining today. Julie, you're next.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Smith. I'm the clinic coordinator at Smithfield Community Clinic in Smithfield, Texas.
Thank you so much for joining today. Carmen, you're next.
Sure. My name's Carmen. I'm the Senior Director of Operations and Housing at Santa Maria.
Thank you so much for joining today. Fanta, you're next. We can't hear you, Fanta, for some reason. Oh, it's not working. Your audio is not working. No worries. Thank you for turning on your camera, though. Heather, you're next.
Good morning, Heather Green with Harris County Public Health in Mental and Behavioral Health and one of the therapists.
Thank you so much for joining today, Heather. Casey, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cassie Sue, and I'm with Harris County Public Health Mental and Behavioral Health Team, and I'm one of the project coordinators.
Thanks for joining today. Shirley, it's good to see you.
Hi.
You're next.
Hi, I'm Shirley Clark. I'm the program director of Elevate, the Substance Use Disorder and Behavioral Health here at Access Health.
Thank you so much for joining today. I have Charisse. You're next.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charisse Knight. I'm a life services manager with Community Health Choice.
Thank you so much for joining today. Faltasia, you're next.
Hi, my name is Faltasia. I'm the SPRED administrator for Access Health.
Thank you so much for joining. I have Yesenia next. Get back to her. Tiffany, you're next. Tiffany, can you hear us? No, okay. We have.
I'm sorry, can you repeat? I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you.
Of course, yeah. I just wanted you to introduce yourself to everybody.
Okay, sorry. I thought you said Tiffany, but I really couldn't hear. Sorry about that.
No
Hi,
problem.
everybody. My name is Tiffany Shafi. I'm a nurse and a behavioral health integration specialist at the Colorado Center for Nursing Excellence. And shout out to Access Health. I love Access Health. Just wanted to say that to all the Access Health people up on the call. So thank you guys for all you do. We couldn't do the work that we do without you guys over at Access. So thanks.
They are awesome. Thank you, Tiffany, for introduction. I have Rostria Sue. I'm so sorry if I butchered your name completely.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rose Lida Ostea. I am the Director of Behavioral Wellness at Sublinica, and we're an QHC down in the Rio Grande Valley.
Thank you, Rose. It's good to, thank you so much for joining. And lastly, I have someone with SMATTISO. Is it Addison?
Hi, so sorry. It's and I'm really not great with technology. This is Susan
No worries.
Madison. Thank you for the opportunity to join. I'm a licensed social worker and I work with students in special education in Houston ISD.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Did I get everyone? I think I did. Well, if I didn't, please let me know. But without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to our presenter, Christy. Floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to have the chance to talk to you guys today, and we're going to talk about self-care for integrated healthcare teams. I want to do a couple of quick disclaimers. I've recently changed offices, and so my lighting is not the best. And the other thing is I'm right over a flight path for our airport. And so you may hear a little bit of background noise, and it is planes that are taking off. And so it's just one of those things that I don't think about because it just is every day. But if you hear that, there isn't anything tragic that's happening over here on my end. So just so you're aware. I really want to make this session try to be informative. I recognize that in the mix of this group, there's a lot of practitioners who likely talk about self-care and stress and burnout as part of kind of your daily work. And what I'm hoping to do is just be able to talk about it maybe in a little bit of a different context and give you some fun things to kind of review as we're going through this. I have some videos along the way. So I'm going to share my screen and okay, a thumbs up that you can see my screen. Perfect. Thank you so much. So there we go. Okay, so we're talking about, again, self-care for the integrated health team. And just a little bit of background for me. I am grateful to be a consultant as part of MHAGH. I am a nurse and have been in progressive leadership positions at present. I've worked in the FQHC world for about 10 years at this point, and I'm the CEO of a healthcare organization in Orange County, California, but have been in Oregon and worked with a variety of different organizations across the nation. So I wanted to start with, there we go. Have you ever felt like this? Stress can be really paralyzing. It is a powerful disruptor. And in my career, I have certainly had so many times over the years that I've felt overwhelmed, completely ineffective, et cetera. It's a hard place to be when your team or your patients, family members, friends, and loved ones rely on you. And sometimes it just feels like it's too much. At some point in our lives, we've all been there. So to start, we can just find community in having experienced stress in times of burnout in our lives. It's just something that can happen. The pandemic hasn't helped matters with the increased stresses of adjusting to new stressors at work. And at the same time, we've had stressors at home that haven't been what is normal. There was no escaping to what was typically regular routines of your life that may have otherwise allowed you the opportunities to decompress. So I was thinking back on, as I was preparing for this, I was thinking back on when I was working at Oregon Health and Science University, which is the medical, academic medical facility in Oregon. And it was my first time that I really honestly heard about burnout. And this was probably 10 plus years ago. It was probably closer to 20 years, honestly. And there were residents and faculty who were working long hours, dealing with complexities and struggles of managing patient illnesses and death, time pressures. And to address the issue, our department implemented various types of groups, including a Ballant group for providers to talk about challenging cases and to discuss, allow them to discuss topics that occupied their mind and that, may have been about their clinic encounters, but could be things that were outside of that. And I always reflected on, this was a very provider-centric type of thing, but burnout also happened with other members of the team, and that opportunity wasn't availed to others. So that was always something that kind of stood there. Although, Ballant groups were effective, it never really address the issue, because at the core of stress, there are elements that are related to the work itself, but also how we individually managing our own stress and personal time outside of the workplace. Everyone's situation is different. I like this cartoon because everybody's coming at a stress and burnout with their own personal lens. So with that, each individual needs to help fill their cup in the way that is unique to them and that's different. So self-care is where we'll spend time starting to talk about today. Before we dig in, I do want to acknowledge that self-care is starting to, there is discussions about self-care, and is that something where we kind of are victim shaming or kind of blaming, using that as something to kind of shame or blame people. And there's a lot of folks in healthcare who are very detail oriented, and maybe perfection is something that is important for them to achieve. And it can be uncomfortable when you're dealing with situations on a daily basis where, what you do is never going to be enough. There's always going to be more. And I think that it's important to just kind of recognize that too, that in self-care, this is about kind of looking at how to make yourself whole and be able to bring your energies to your work and not feel shame and blame about that. So I love this. Relaxing, you're enough, you do enough. Breathe extra deep, let go, and just live here right in the moment. I think that we all don't take enough time to do that. So I wanted to share a quick video. We'll see how well my videos work in this. So I'm gonna switch this over and go full screen. Okay.
Today we're going to be talking about showing up for yourself. So when there's a lot going on in our lives, in the world, when it feels as though there's just no more space in our mind, it's really tempting to let go of the things that are most important to us and the things that are going to keep us healthy and well. And now more than ever, it's really important that we focus on those things that are going to keep us healthy and well. So as much as possible, if you can, find a time to meditate. Find a time to step out of the things.
Christy, are you able to bring up the volume?
Yes.
Thank you.
Make sure you're taking time to exercise if you can. Most of the gyms are closed down. It might mean going out for a walk, it might mean going out for a run, it might be doing something at home. But whatever it is, make sure that your body's getting some kind of physical movement. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Sleep is so important. It's important to our immune system. It's important to our cognition. If you don't get enough rest, then you're going to compromise all kind of different aspects of your health. Right now, eating's going to be difficult for all of us, and we may not get everything that we want, but continuing to eat as healthily as you can is going to be a really important part of staying healthy and well. And then finally, finding a sense of play in your life. In the middle of a global pandemic where so many people are suffering, and maybe people really, really close to you are suffering as well, play and a sense of joy can feel so far removed and perhaps even unnecessary in our life. But if we can find even a couple of moments in the day where we smile, maybe even laugh, find something that brings us a sense of joy, that has a very real impact, not just on our mind, but also on our body. So just making sure that you're looking after yourself. Remember, it's not selfish. It's not just for you. It also benefits the people around you as well.
So I really love this. This video was made during the latter half of 2020. So we were kind of 6 months into the pandemic, and I think that a lot of things going on there that was a little bit different than where we're at today in some ways, but in a lot of ways, I can speak personally, it is still hard for me to find ways to make that time for myself. And I also recognize that if I'm not my best, like I'm not giving my best and my whole self to those that I'm working with or my family members and those types of things. So I thought we could just take a moment, and I wanted you to open up the chat and share if you have something that you feel is a self-care activity that recharges your batteries. What fills your cup? So feel free to like unmute yourself too if you'd like, but I'd just loved for you to take a moment and just share briefly kind of what are those things that that bring you joy and kind of help you bring your energy back. I love that. Playing guitar, music, yoga and reading. Go ahead.
Cassie said yoga and reading in the park. Heather said bike riding every day if possible, or playing with their dog, hiking. Julie, I'm with you on hiking. That's my go-to. Yoga, reading, knitting.
Fantasia, I'm with you on eating ice cream.
Hugging
Nature
kids.
walk.
Seema, that's so cute.
Morning coffee. Oh, I feel that.
It's a need.
Solitude. Time for yourself. Walking around the farm after enjoying the animal.
Madison said nature walks. Absolutely. Veronica says hikes and bike rides. Shirley, volunteering and gardening.
Carmen, you weren't able to hear the video. Okay.
So Carmen says beach visits, walking, and staycations.
Love it. Good. It is great to remember those things that help fill that cup back up. We have to be able to bring that back into our lives. So I wanted to share this next video, and hopefully you can, if you're having a hard time hearing it, I have turned the volume up all the way on my screen. But if you're having a hard time, try just turning it up on your screen and let's see if that helps.
Christy, just a
Yes.
suggestion, and you may already be doing this, so I apologize if you're already doing this. When I present, if I don't hit share sound, when I hit share screen, people can't hear my videos either. So I'm not sure if you're hitting that share sound check mark.
It is checked.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Were others able to hear it? Yes. Okay. So, okay. I'm seeing some thumbs up. So, okay. The other thing that I could do is I will share these afterwards too. If you want to see these too. This is not fully a 5-minute video too. I'll just share that. So.
Hey there. Let's talk about self-care. Now, Parks and Rec, of course, is pretty great, but self-care is more than just treating yourself. Self-care is not a reward, though sometimes that can be part of it. It's a vital piece of the ongoing process of being a human. To quote the self-help classic Codependent No More, self-care is an attitude that says, I am responsible for myself. In other words, I am my responsibility, and I will honor that responsibility as I would anything else that was precious to me. So let's make an action plan for using self-care to make our lives more awesome. Step 1, recognize that it is indeed okay to take care of yourself. Nay, it is not just okay, it is smart. As Lifehacker puts it, self-care helps prevent burnout, reduces the negative psychological and physical effects of stress, and helps you refocus on what's true and important. Like, there's an entire peer-reviewed international journal on burnout. This is like a real big, difficult problem to solve. Now, this may seem counterintuitive, but it actually makes you more productive, not less, to set time aside for yourself. And regardless of your productivity levels, recognize that you are a human being, and that is enough to warrant compassion and kindness. For real. Step 2, ideally before the need strikes, research outwardly and inwardly what self-care means and what works for you. There are self-care actions that can help pretty much everyone: getting proper nutrition, some exercise, enough sleep, hydrating, and taking small breaks throughout the workday. I like to go for walks, and I like to be forced to do it by my friends or family or baby. We link to a list of almost 50 self-care actions down in the doobly-doo. But everyone is unique, so it's important to ask what actions make me feel better. Journaling, texting something nice to a friend, like watching videos of pug puppies, doing a bunch of push-ups, pillow fights, putting some projects on the back burner maybe. I personally am all in for the baby cuddles. I have a baby now, and I feel like I'm doing a thing that I was designed for and that I need to be doing and that I also just really like. Sometimes he's angry though and he yells at me, but most of the time I get cuddles. Now, one possible self-care action from us to you, start a digital warm and fuzzy file and fill it with compliments or kind words you've received, good memories and favorite photos. Like, I have to admit, I get lots of people saying nice things about me on the internet, and that helps get me through the day. Being able to look through this file when you're feeling down might go a long way to bringing you back up. You want this list to be both ample and flexible, and you may even want to break it into different categories. For instance, T. Michael Martin, the fellow who wrote this script, by the way, has a spreadsheet of self-care actions organized by types of negative experiences. After all, the self-care you need while you're depressed may not be the same self-care that helps when you're overwhelmed with work. Also, if other people are involved in these self-care actions, it's totally cool to let them know now that they are part of your action plan. They may not always be available, but odds are if they're a good friend, they're gonna do their best to do their part. Step 3, self-care powers activate. It's best if you can recognize the warning signs that you could use some self-care before things go into the red zone. For me, by the way, it's when I notice my fingers going to websites that I didn't intend on going to. Like just typing in reddit.com when I have a ton of work to do is a sign that I should go for maybe a little walk to recharge the batteries. If you're keeping a journal, you might notice a pattern or two in your behavior. Perhaps you'll notice a bleaker mood than normal or disturbed sleep. Either way, once the need becomes apparent, consult your list and follow through. And that is all that we have for you today. But if you have any self-care tips, please let us and other people who are looking know down in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. In the meantime, take care of yourself, your friends, and your neighbors. It's the adult thing to do.
So I just think that that guy is fun. So I think that the way that he presents is just, it really resonates. So many things of, of again, kind of taking care of yourself, not kind of taking care of yourself, taking care of yourself. So the key takeaways from that is just, accepting it's okay to take care of yourself and identifying what works for you. I really loved the idea of kind of journaling because different things can create different stressors, right? And what is the counter action to that? And then activating kind of that self-care plan. It's important that we have awareness of how we manage our own self-care so we can show up and be our best team member, leader, practitioner in our work, as well as in our personal lives. So if you think about a time when you felt burned out or overwhelmed at work, what did you need that wasn't present or available? So we're kind of shifting the focus now on the workplace. In those times, did you feel that you had the support or the tools that you needed? And how did you transition out of that situation? And so I'd love to have, if someone feels brave and wants to unmute and maybe just kind of describe a time that they felt really overwhelmed, and if they're able to kind of pinpoint what was it about that situation and how did you get out of that? Go ahead, Carmen.
I was going to say that actually going through it right now. There's quite a few housing projects, new housing that we're
did we lose her?
I think we did.
Oh no.
Sarah, if you want to go next, hopefully she can join back.
Yeah, so this was probably, I guess, in my first career, working in the court system. Just the complete lack of psychological safety in the workplace, being being a part of a multidisciplinary team where we're trying to advocate for reunification on one side and then working, you know, with in a situation that is very, you know, can be volatile, and working with families for like a year and a half, and then something happens, and then, you know, so, and then the fact of, you know, the judicial structure and politics involved. And so there was just a lack of support, clear direction, and then just, you know, lack of psychological safety. And it just, you know, after 10 years, it builds up, and, you know, you wake up and realize what is going on, you know, how did I end up here? Yeah, so I'm grateful to be out of that place.
I love that you brought that up, and you used some words that I think really resonate for me, because we all are working in stressful situations, and you go through periods of time that are really intense. But there's something that's different at times, like the intensity can be the same, but sometimes you can work through it and feel still energized at the end of the day. And sometimes it just is it's a suck. It's a life suck, right? You feel completely drained at the end of the day, and it's hard to like get up in the morning, or, I mean, there's just so much of that. And so what is it about the work environment that makes that different? And I think that is something that, how can we now shift a little bit to talking about what we need in order to, or what do our teammates need, and how can we play a role in that? Does anyone else have something they'd like to share as well?
Fanta, I know you're trying to share, but
I think for us, it's been a lot of incivility that we have found in our practices. And that's been the number one thing that have made, you know, our behavioral health providers want to leave our integrated care settings, because there's been a lot of stress and, you know, lack of training and, you know, whatever else. And we try our best to, you know, do those things, but incivility for us has been the number one reason why people leave.
I completely relate with that. Yeah. I think there is it's interesting to be able to think about the root cause analysis of why is this happening? I hear support, training, and those things, structure. In the absence of that, and certainly COVID created those types of situations where everyone is just like, the environment is shifting with telehealth, or with, you know, trying to do things in a virtual manner, and change in itself. We already know that many people struggle with change, and we all struggle with change at some point. But just like when things aren't coming together, how challenging that can be. So now I'm going to have us shift over to the other side of that, which is think about a time when you felt energized in your work. What elements were present to create excitement and build energy? Did you have the tools or the training and support to do your work? And why is that not moving? There we go. And how did that excitement permeate the organization and or the team? So would love if anyone has an example of when there were stressors, and maybe it's that maybe it's the project that you're doing right now, but what is it that was different about that really energized? And feel free to unmute.
Hi, this is Carmen from Santa Maria. So I started out talking about the problem, and then I had an incoming call and I thought I disconnected. So I apologize. And then
No
it
problem.
was getting back in. But really the biggest challenges, I have 2 brand new projects for housing, which is great because there's wonderful opportunities for our clients that they can transition into. And I was feeling very overwhelmed, but in both of these projects, we were having cohort meetings. And so knowing that there's other people that are there to support you, that are going through the same thing that you're going through. And not only that, they had the resources that they could provide me. So I at least had a starting point, because my biggest challenge was, where do I start? And it's so monumental. I mean, I'm having to develop policies and procedures for each of these different programs, and I'm not a tedious kind of person. I can be at times, but that's not my usual nature. I'm a hit it and go and have about 20 pots on the stove going. And so knowing that there was people there to help me. And then in the other situation, I had the exact same thing. We were working in a group and just getting everyone that was involved on the team there from another organization, and just really coming together and sharing what's going on and what those concerns are, and really coming from a place of transparency I feel like is key to being able to moving forward.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that. There is something very powerful in community, and when you have people who are supporting you in your work, or that you and your team are working in a direction of creating something new together. There's a lot of power in that dynamic of being able to do that work. Anyone else want to share a time that you felt really energized? What was different about that? Okay. Well, I think the point as we're kind of having this portion of the conversation is just a reflection, perhaps, as you're in your daily work and you have times that there's stressors, but just recognizing that sometimes there's energy, even though there's stress present, and other times it's kind of pulling you down. So just kind of recognizing what's the difference there. And oftentimes it can be about structure. It can be about having everyone on the same page and being goal driven. So how do we create or build high functioning teams when there are so many personal factors that each individual brings to that team dynamic? So I thought, let's take a look for a moment at how essential self-care is for leaders and the impact on their teammates. And I also, when I share when I talk about leaders, it doesn't always have to be leaders as in the manager or the supervisor. I also think about leaders within teams and those types of things. So I just wanted to share that for context, that leaders aren't always just by title. So go.
I think we can all agree that one of the things that leaders need to do most is to serve. And they have a lot of different groups that they serve. Leaders need to serve their leaders, they need to serve their customers, they need to serve their partners, they need to serve their team members. But oftentimes leaders forget to serve the most important group, which is themselves. Now, if you've ever flown anywhere, during the briefing, when the flight attendants do their demonstrations, one of the things that they always say is, in case of an emergency, put on your oxygen mask first before you try to help others. And that's because if you're incapacitated, then what good are you trying to help others? And that's what today's leadership hack is all about, It's about serving yourself, practicing self-care. And this leadership hack comes from Barbara Humpton. She's the CEO of Siemens in the United States, which is a large conglomerate. They have around 60,000 employees in the United States. And practicing self-care can manifest in a lot of different ways. For Barbara specifically, it's about sleep. So let me read to you specifically what Barbara told me. And she said, an example of the value of sleeping on it, which is her leadership hack, her self-care hack. I'd be in the midst of a major proposal, trying to figure out how to solve a problem, such as making a project meet a tight schedule or trimming the price without sacrificing quality. And I'd work with my team to brainstorm multiple potential solutions before leaving for the night. In the morning, we'd get back together and one of us would have a new, even better solution. Unfortunately, there's another factor in the equation these days. With constant connectivity and instant communication, we're oftentimes tempted to commit to actions in the moment. If not an actual emergency, I remind people to stop and think through the options. And yes, maybe even to sleep on it before leaping into action. So the leadership hack specifically is practicing self-care. Now, for me, practicing self-care is all about eating healthy, it's about exercising, it's about disconnecting from technology, and it's also about doing things for my body because I travel a lot, I'm on airplanes a lot, so I even go out and get massages just because it feels good, and after sitting on airplanes all the time, your back gets a little tweaked out. So I practice self-care so that I can do my best when I travel to these conferences and events so that I can deliver a good talk. So as a leader, you need to remember to practice self-care. So after watching this video, I want you to go out and do something for yourself. Practice self-care for yourself. And again, this will manifest in many different ways. The way that you practice self-care is not going to be the same way that I practice self-care. But whatever it is that you do, make sure that you do it because not only will your team thank you for it, but you will also become a better leader. If you want to look out for other people and if you want to lead other people, you first have to start with taking care of yourself. Remember to share your leadership journeys and success.
All right. So I think you get a theme here in today's session, right? That taking care of ourselves is so important, even as a leader. So, so how does a leader create a positive culture that promotes, supports, and uplifts their staff? I wanted to see maybe if you would all take a moment to either put in the chat or unmute to share what are some of the characteristics of dynamic leaders that you found motivational or impactful, and maybe what are things that you try to do if you are a leader to really be present and not only lift your team up, but also helps you feel good. I'll share mine. One of the things that I like to do is I really like to make sure that I am thanking people and recognizing good work. When I am able to do that, it's like a gift. It's like giving gifts. It's that feeling that you have of being able to help somebody else feel better about their work and that they feel seen. And so that for me is something that it helps fill my cup. And I know that it also helps people feel like they're valued.
We have Carmen in the chat. She has said disposition, kind, encourager, fair.
Yeah.
Julie Smith says listening and affirmations. Fanta says supportive and empathetic. And then Heather says clear communication of expectations and reinforcing when people are successful.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, Shirley says have offsite staff meetings, coffee shop, provide push-ups and affirmations for job well done.
Yeah.
Cherise said offsite team bonding activities.
One of the things when I read this list is thinking about during those times of burnout, if these were present, either from your leader or from the people that you work with, would that change the situation? Would you feel more energized with your work, or would you still feel, and it's a hypothetical, right? So you can't answer this question, but these are the things that help to fill that cup up and help you feel engaged in your work. So I think that this is something great to just be able to note and be able to kind of take away from this.
Yesenia shared really quickly, Christy.
Yes.
Shared listening, providing support, and being flexible. I think that's the new vocabulary we got, flexible. It's such an important thing while working in a team, because yes, flexibility is highly needed, especially when you're dealing with burnouts, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Yesenia, for sharing that.
Christy, I just wanted to add, I think something that I've noticed since the pandemic is, and that we touched a little bit upon this, I think earlier in your discussion, but just being able to be vulnerable. I think as leaders, sharing that, you may not have all the answers, you definitely don't. I think sharing that with your team or your staff is really important, because it then creates a sense of community. So,
absolutely.
I think many of us wear many hats. We might be, leaders in our organization. Sometimes I often joke with people, this is true, I think for many mental health providers, as a psychiatrist, people kind of expect you to know it all, or to have all the answers, or to do things exactly so. And I think sharing that, you may not, and that you're learning as you go along is important. And I also think, I'm a parent, I have 3 kids. And so sharing some of those vulnerabilities in the way of, how to do self-care for, or share with your kids, like, this is what I do when I'm stressed. Or so it's been a powerful experience, because I think sometimes your kids expect you to have all the answers, or perhaps you put that pressure on yourself. And so it's been a very, I think, enriching dynamic, even with family members, to share that vulnerability and problem solve together, instead of it being a very sort of top-down relationship, if you will.
Oh, I love that. That really, really resonates for me as well. I also try to practice in that vulnerability space when I've made a decision that maybe wasn't the right decision, and what I was thinking about. And I try to be very open and transparent when, sometimes you're making the choice between 2 difficult decisions, and just being really transparent about that. So when you talk about hierarchy, that really helps to break that down. And the more people feel connected and understand the whys, and that communication is open, I think that is so critical. Like, really, thank you so much for sharing that. So one way too for leaders to be able to, I think about, check-ins are something that you hear people talk about, but I think it's really about one very powerful thing is creating that one-on-one connection, and that relational leadership is so important, especially when you're talking about leaders and staff. And it can be like senior leaders, or it can be, just like leaders on the ground that maybe are project managers. It is important to take the time, really make the time to create those relationships, and have it be focused on, the work and performance, but not, all of your meetings shouldn't be about corrective action or those types of things. Is really creating space to have that, talking about what the work is, understanding barriers. I've seen this happen too in rounding, but it's really about creating relationship, I think is very important. And then support. I think support, when we were talking about what's the difference between when it's a challenging situation and you have burnout, or when you get excited about things, and support is a really big piece about that. And you can have negative feedback. There can be times where there's constructive feedback. It needs to be balanced. It needs to be both. So positive and constructive feedback is important for communication in the teams, as long as it's about not focusing on the person, but really focusing on the work and what are we doing to move things forward. When they're praised and guided every step of the way, they know that they're appreciated, noticed, and that there's always room for improvement at the same time. And it isn't about seeking perfection. It's about just kind of continually seeing that there's abilities to further refine things, as that makes sense. There may be things that isn't relevant, but there's nothing wrong with continuing to look for improvements, and it's not about it having to be perfect. A lack of feedback, on the other hand, can really leave employees wondering whether or not they're on the right track and losing their sense of purpose. And I think beyond that as well, that they can also sometimes kind of not understand that they're valued in the organization. And so I think that happened a lot during the pandemic, that we saw a lot of people just say, this isn't worth it. I'm going to leave, because there was so much going on, and it just weren't able to focus in on showing appreciation for the work of that folks were doing. Other things that you can do are like lunch and learns. So there's a lot of great subjects. You can get input from staff. You can do like meditation. You can talk about stress management, or even just have open time for people to be able to talk about a subject, open that up. I think that as you're creating, it's all about creating community and having good communication, opening up good communication. So providing those opportunities again for learning, and then relational development, and listening to the employees around what are the things that they're interested in learning about. There's also, and we were talking specifically here, we're talking about, we're working in a primary care setting. So acknowledging, embracing the culture of primary care in itself. But that acceptance moves from self, it also includes the collective us, right? So as we're thinking about the culture, we're thinking about how are we showing up for one another in that as well. And further, while it's true that fear is one of the greatest motivators, we all know a healthy company culture can't be based on negative attitudes and behaviors. We really have to create a positive place. So a long-term happiness and productivity of team members, every company needs to thrive on positive encouragement. Leaders play a big role in that. It's also important in this around culture to really talk about unified messages that we have everyone in the organization, regardless of the level, we're all talking about it. Culture, when we think about the project that we're currently doing in some of the organizations around integrated behavioral health, that is around kind of everyone understanding what that is, and that everyone has a role in the work that we're doing. And then gratitude, I think, I spoke to this earlier, expressing genuine gratitude is a place that can really help you with your self-care, as well as really uplift team dynamics. If gratitude becomes a part of your company culture, and if every single member of your team feels continuously appreciated for their efforts, you'll have a happy group of people on your hands. So gratitude goes beyond verbal communication. It's also just kind of how you're present and those types of things. I'll say that, continuous appreciation is hard. So you have to, this is also when you talk about self-care as a leader or an individual, it has to feel natural. And so the more you do that and have that be something that is just kind of your daily work and how you show up for folks, the easier and more natural it actually becomes. And then building team. Every business is a world of its own. All of our businesses are uniquely different. And there is always a way to help every team member find their place in your company universe. Cherish their contribution, nurture their spirit, and you'll find teams that thrive in your company culture and that can truly make a difference for the long-term success of your organization. So in community takes a village, and through the development of work culture and support, engagement and relationship development with leadership, and awareness of what everyone is bringing to the team, kind of going back to self-care, we're all bringing something unique to that. It is possible to endure through challenging times and hopefully reduce burnout and turnover in your organization. So I thought that I would just kind of open it up for questions and discussion. And does this resonate? Really, really interested in kind of what you all think about. I'll actually stop sharing so we can.
This is William at Legacy. I think it does. I know at Legacy, with our new CEO, we have launched a Be Kind initiative to help create a more supportive working environment. And I know that we also have an initiative where we are doing more on the provider side of things, but a more provider kind of initiative to kind of invest time and energy into providers, which has been really helpful for overall morale. A big part of people's retention with Legacy was this kind of fun place to work and cool people to work with. And I think obviously with the pandemic that got disrupted.
Yeah.
And so I think as we are coming out of COVID with more of a new normal for us, I think it does create an opportunity to kind of revisit these kind of points of how do we, practice kindness? How do we create a fun, safe place to work and stuff like that?
Thank you for sharing that. So is that kind of also a long-term strategy in terms of kind of creating that? Is that a new normal in the organization?
Yeah, so with our new CEO, he started late last year. So I assume if he says it's are going to be our work culture, it's gonna be here a while. And so I think maybe not all the programming that he might envision have been started, but maybe it's a pathway to kind of look at other interventions or supports that might be implemented under his leadership.
Yeah, I love that. And have you felt that change, that shift? And I think you spoke to that, but are you finding with the providers specifically in your organization, if that is really making a positive impact?
I believe it's making a positive impact, yet I think in my role as a manager, I also recognize that not everyone in the organization is a provider. And so I definitely think it is also a conversation about how do the other staff also feel supported and valued as well, given, we have front desk staff, we have medical assistants, we have housekeeping, we have interns. So how do we make sure that everyone feels like their time is valued and they matter, and they feel supported within the organization.
I really greatly appreciate that you have kind of the lens on that. And I think going back to the beginning of my presentation of when I first experienced providers specifically talking about burnout and all of the resources that we were dedicating. And then you have this other segment of your workforce that are also experiencing stressors and oftentimes uniquely different, but that we really weren't providing the attention to that. And I think, you know, a lot of our organizations are focusing on equity and team dynamic, and it is important to really try to broaden that. And so I appreciate that you raised that, and kudos to you. Like I'm excited for your organization that's made, there's a commitment there to culture. Good. Anyone else want to share?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Shirley.
How are you?
Good.
So Access Health usually have participatory events for staff at least twice a week. So we have what we call Wellness Wednesday, and where we can dress down in jeans and some fun color shirt for staff. They usually have refreshments and lunch sometimes served for us in the break room for anyone to come. Then we also have trauma-informed care, TIC departmental meetings where we're talking about the importance of having self-care for the staff, also to educate us on how to welcome in patients who might have some secondary and tertiary traumas, to know how to best communicate with them. And then, of course, each department usually have managers. Like in my department, we usually try to do some offsite activities, and then of course we push each other up. And I know like HR usually have us send in pictures and times and Facebook, you know, things to be able to get gift cards. And then our behavioral health team also provides trainings that goes into self-care at least once a month. And we actually get a chance to get gift cards and all kinds of incentives during that. So we're doing that, but we can do a lot more. So
oh my gosh.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm like, okay, Shirley, give me some words of wisdom. What did I miss? That's amazing. Shirley, if you don't mind me asking a question, was this also in place prior to the pandemic?
Some of it. We usually have a peer, we have peer teams where they come out and every month they come around. Yeah. So we had to be very creative after the pandemic because we have like 5 locations. Yeah. So we do a lot of things virtually, and we use a lot of Facebook and a lot of other ways to keep everybody incentivized now that we can't meet face to face.
And how was your organization? Did you notice a significant impact on your workforce during, like in terms of turnover? Did you have a lot of turnover during the pandemic, or did you feel that it was lessened because of some of what you
I think we were so busy, our turnover rate was kind of low.
That's
like
great.
Most facilities lost. We actually made it easier for staff to meet the patient's needs through telemedicine, so that helped. A lot of individuals who had children who of course couldn't go to school and found themselves having to work from home, and you know, and I really push up our CEO for saying, you know what, instead of you leaving or losing the job, let's make it available for you to meet the patient and you can take care of your own personal use. So telemedicine was a big thing to kind of help people stay on the job and stay motivated to still want to work. Now, of course, like with any organization, things happen. People got sick, you know, people's family members got sick. So they might have had to take leave during a couple of months just to make sure they took care of their family and their children. But in terms of losing jobs or leaving jobs, a lot of that, we didn't have a lot of turnover in that area.
I love that. Thank you so much. I think that that is a great case in point of when you have a supportive environment, that there's not self-care that's happening, but you are having a lot of conversations with your staff about self-care and being able to kind of look at that internally. Other organizations that I know also did experience a lot of turnover. And so you just kind of, what is the difference between the organizations? And so kudos again to the work that you guys are doing. Anyone else want to share?
Say, Christy, for me, it has been that for our department, I've really enjoyed doing one-on-one with our director. I think I'm not on the leadership side, so as a team, I know how important they are to me because I feel like it really provides a platform to be candid with your supervisor. Things that you may not be comfortable sharing with your entire team. This really does provide an opportunity to be candid and let them know where you are, so your supervisor can meet you at where you're at and work. And again, going back to Yesenia's word, flexibility, and talking about just, problem solving and how can we make you better? How can we, help you grow? I think that one-on-one with your direct supervisor really is helpful. And it also helps with talking about burnouts. If you are feeling some type of way about, how much you have on your plate, I think that, one-on-one time really helps you to be open about, how you feel, where you're at, and what help do you need. If you really do want to hear out your staff, I think one-on-one is one of the great way to do so, to touch base with your staff and really check in with them.
Yeah, that is something, thank you for sharing that, Sajina. It's something that has always been very important for me. I literally meet one-on-one every single week with all of my direct reports. And it's really about touching base about what have they got on their plate? Where are they struggling? Where do they need help? Either prioritizing, or they need my help, or they need other supports. It really, I think that it was particularly critical during the pandemic. And although we all had way too much, that we had going on, it was also the way that we all stayed connected with one another. So, and continued to, there were times that it was obviously very stressful and that emotions at times even got heated. But it was a way that we maintained relationship because we had lines of communication that continued to be open. And so I think that is kind of on the other end of it, right? The other end of it, it feels like that was something that I'm glad that we put in place, and that we also did do a lot of what folks were describing. And thank you again for sharing that, but trying to create those flexibilities, for people to work from home or do whatever they needed to do to be able to kind of manage their lives still.
For sure. Tiffany has said in the chat that we've been intentional with giving gratitudes and kudos to our staff member in person rather than over quick email and sorry, I kind of scrolled down.
Yes.
Email or a quick message. There's a research that shows that saying thank you in person has a greater impact on serotonin level in the brain than over email.
Yes, completely. I love that. That is really true.
It's really validating when you hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Well, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. Having the opportunity to go through this kind of makes me revisit my, what are the things that I need to do? And it always feels like a balance, right? Finding time for yourself at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day or whatever it is that you need. Mine's all about my dogs and getting out and walking my dogs and taking big walks. So that is what always kind of makes me feel alive again. And a good night's sleep. Like definitely, you know, if I haven't gotten enough sleep, it's hard for me to kind of feel like I'm bringing my best, but. Well, Sajina, thank you again.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Christy. As always, it's a pleasure to have you as our presenter. Thank you all for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you all again next month. I don't have the name and the title and the name of the presenter off my head, but I'm sure it'll be great. But thank you so much for today, and you will be receiving an email for a survey and your CEU very soon. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.